What's going on, everybody? Jeff here. Welcome back to the channel. AMC on Friday had one of its biggest intraday moves that we have seen in quite some time, up over 17%. And I want to talk a little bit about the technicals heading into the week ahead. Talk about the entire stock market as it's seen a little bit of a rally. Obviously, after CPI had come in a little bit less than expectations. I made a video yesterday talking a little bit about the short-term technicals as well as the bigger macro picture. And I also want to talk about the fallout of the FTX. Okay, a lot of people have been talking about over the internet how some of these large institutions are going to be affected after losing so much capital in such a short period of time. Are margin calls going to be made? Are they going to have to sell and liquidate some of their other assets in order to maintain their minimum liquidity requirements? I want to talk a little bit about that, as well as how it correlates to the entire market and more specifically AMC, guys. So let's get right into it. First off, as you can see this chart here, up over 17.5%. When you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, you can see that this pattern is only just the beginning for what we have seen time and time again. It starts by a little bit of a technical breakout over a resistance level, kind of piles on, it shoots up a little bit. It's continuing to make a higher low, obviously, until it kind of gets pulled back. Now, a lot of this, especially the past two times, has really been done by pure manipulation. Okay, we talked about that in one of my previous videos, how the circuit breakers were tripped a little bit prematurely to the upside, but obviously it was not tripped prematurely to the downside. Very convenient for them, but it seems like it's a similar pattern that continues to play out. Now, the reason why we're seeing also these higher lows, okay, on some of these mini squeezes, is that's just the environment that we're in. Okay, when you talk about the speculative market, when you talk about this fantasy money supply that we lived in, okay, from the Federal Reserve just printing money left and right, not only printing money left and right, but also 0% interest rates. It was a fairy tale environment that we were in, okay? Stocks of companies that are truly going to be worthless, in which AMC is a, fundamentally sound company. Obviously, they have their struggles like all of them do, but we're talking about other companies that are truly going to be worthless, are not going to be around in 5 years. Even they, spiked, from $1 all the way up to $20, $25, some of them even more. That was the environment that we were in. Okay, obviously times have changed, and that's why we're starting to see some of these higher lows. The biggest thing to remember is attention is still on the stock. It's getting the volume and it's getting the attention. Okay, now one thing I do see is some of your technical day traders that are solely specifically for day trading, charts and technical analysis. Obviously, they're a little bit hesitant because of, one, the market we're in, also the manipulation that's been behind it. You better believe that if these market makers get tripped over their feet like they did all the way back in June of last year, you're going to see them continue to pile on and move to the upside. Okay, so let's zoom in just a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little about FTX, as you are seeing that little of that technical breakout over the $7 level. That big one is going to be once we can get into this gap. All right, going all the way back to August when Adam Aaron had done the ape preferred dividend listing, and obviously overnight the rebalancing. It's as much as we don't like to say it's a fair market, it rebalanced very well, and ape has to get its valuation from somewhere, and that's why AMC took a little bit of the plummet. But let's talk a little bit about the entire cryptocurrency market. Okay, so Bitcoin's currently sitting at about 16.9 right now, off of a high of, I think it was like 67 and a half, 68,000. All right, when you take a look at this chart, you can see that it's just completely getting pummeled. All right, and you look at where it's really began to spike towards the end of that 2020. That's when that technicals aligned over that breakout with the fantasy money supply, and it just continued to rip even higher, and now it's going to continue to get pummeled. When will this change? Well, first off, in an overall picture, okay, the stock market, which is, they've really been correlated very closely lately. I've been saying that to a lot of people inside the group over the past 6 to 8 months. When you're seeing Bitcoin take a little bit of a pull in the overnight, and especially over the weekends, a lot of time the markets will follow. Bitcoin was a little bit of a leading indicator. Okay, now it did get disconnected for a little bit of time, and it is starting to reconnect. Obviously, they have their own issues happening as of right now, but when you look at the entire cryptocurrency market, everything is getting pulled, and it's getting pulled very, very hard. Okay, now FTX had a lot of their own issues. Obviously, I'm not going to cover them. They've been all over the internet. A lot of them are going to a lot of them, first of all, are really unknown. I think what is being, shared with us as the public, what is being reported on the media, I personally believe is only a very small amount. Reason being for this is because there was no regulation over a lot of things that not only this company has done, okay, but other companies have done as well. If this company has continued to collapse, such as other companies have already done, it's only a matter of time before it continues to trickle down. All right, chances are, if this company, okay, as well as there was other collapses, the collapse of Luna, okay, it's not just single-handedly to those two participating market members. All right, it's going to carry over, and a lot of things aren't going to be shared with us. We've seen that happen, inside the stock market, obviously, as the SEC, has their hands on it and still doesn't share a lot of this. But one thing I do want to point out is this, okay? I took this off of, a screenshot that was shared inside, the group, and it just goes over all of the big institutions that had a massive stake in FTX. How is it going to affect them in the short term and the long term? Okay, will these people be able to recover even and some of their money? Obviously, you have some angel investors, but a lot of them are big time companies. We got which we've talked about on this channel, Lightspeed, Tiger, which already had serious issues. Okay, BlackRock is on here. Okay, which BlackRock is a big position side inside of AMC. What is going to happen when they begin to pull out? Are they going to have to liquidate some of their big blue chip stocks? Is that going to affect, the entire market? What does that look like? Well, generally speaking, if a liquidation is going to occur in some of these, blue chip stocks, that's where you're going to see the market begin to pull back. I covered it in my last video saying that this is still nothing but a bear market rally until it's not, okay? Until we can break over some of these technical levels and make a higher high, hold a higher high. There's an old term saying that I mention all the time: don't fight the Fed. When the Fed stops, okay, when the macros change a little bit, obviously it's just going to continue to move to the downside. JP Morgan has also stated, okay, that their traders are selling this pop. They're going to continue to ride it, let it get up a little bit higher, continue to sell the pop. Now, these big institutions, if they have to liquidate their blue chips, if they have to liquidate their other risk on assets, okay, equities inside the stock market, in order to cover some of their losses, in order to maintain their minimum liquidity requirements, it's going to cause the market to be able to pull. How does that affect AMC? Well, we have some upside and some downside, okay? And I really want to just be transparent for you guys. There's going to be some people in the comments that are saying like, oh, you're FUD because you're not saying that, listen, it's going to, squeeze to $10,000 tomorrow like some other people do. But I really try to just be as honest as I can. Okay, so obviously there is some upside and some downside. First of all, the downside is, well, clearly you look at this chart over the past year and a half, it looks a little bit different, but you can still see it's trending to the downside with pretty much every other ticker out there. It's very few tickers that are holding up, okay, in the entire market. All right, so that is obviously to the downside. If the market does pull, AMC will be affected. However, because AMC is a net shorted stock rather than a net long stock, okay, from a bigger perspective, well, if funds come in and begin to close their positions as they have pretty much, how much lower can this continue to go? Obviously, there is a saying that, listen, what is low can always continue to go lower. However, the fundamentals have changed drastically from going back to 2020 when there was zero revenue, massive overhead that they had to pay their the bills on, and massive debt. A lot of that has changed, but it's going to continue to form a base from a technical level and from just a valuation level, okay, a price earnings ratio and so forth. They've paid off some of their debt. They restructured some of their debt. They have long-term, plans moving forward. So as a net short holder, someone who needs to make liquidity requirements, getting out of their position, obviously will be beneficial for AMC. Now, I do say this to everybody, and I mean this, that when these, if shorts continue to close their positions, if they slowly close their positions, just remember there has to be buyers on the other side in order to continue to bid up the price, okay? Or else the algos will just kick in and will automatically buy it and then try to be able to sell it. That's how squeezes happen. Squeezes don't solely occur from just shorts wanting to close their position. There has to be buying pressure that continues to ride it up, which is exactly what we saw, okay, inside the June run up. All right. And I'm sure if you're someone that's watching this video, as was I, okay, who bought all the way, I believe the highest I bought, I believe was $47, then that you bought throughout this, upside move. Okay. So it is buying pressure that needs to happen. So just want to give you, like I said, a complete, polarity to this. All right, it is a big technical level breakout. We'll have to see where the market continues to ride. All right, now going on towards the end of the month when it is a bigger perspective. Okay, we do have a mid-election year that we are in right now, which elections should be winding up as of right now. Of course, they're still delayed counting ballots. What a surprise. But generally, these next couple of months are, historically speaking, very beneficial for the entire stock market, especially if the Fed does decide to pump their brakes a little bit. I think that will kind of fight the overall entire narrative, but it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. But as for now, look for this $7. I gotta zoom in on this. Look for this $7 kind of breakout that we just barely held to continue to move to the upside. It's going to get big once we get over that 11, $12. Really get to enter that gap, have that volume continue to be higher like it has been. It is good, and we'll continue to push all the way back up to retest that. All right. Eventually, I do believe that gap will get filled from the upside from there. Obviously, the momentum has to continue. So, guys, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.